In the last episode, I described how I became first, and although there are probably other people who are also first, I mean, it's obvious that the organization goes quite a ways up above any particular level you know about. Um, and there are, as I discovered in New Haven, over 500 kings in the United States. There's quite a lot of room for speculation about who might be king and where they are and who they are. When I left that hospital, I went to live at where I am here, where I'm speaking from, at Bryn Mawr Care. It's a intermediate care facility in Chicago with 180 residents. It's a pretty nice place to live. Various things have happened, but I want to get straight to the point of the transition from first to king. The idea is that first is, in another term, kingpin. And kingpin is interesting because it's composed of two parts, king and pin. And I compare it to a grenade. You take the pin out and it explodes. So if you take the pin out of the kingpin, it explodes, and what you get left is king. And this is what happened to me, and I'll describe that. The occasion of my becoming first was in, I believe, 1992. I'm pretty sure, either 91 or 92. And then I came here to Bryn Mawr Care and have been here learning basically about what it's like to have this much power and seeing things fall into place in your wake. And once you become first, you are a kingpin, and things transpire until, and this sort of interesting thing happens, which I am comparing to the pulling of a pin of a grenade, where there's an explosion. What happened to me was that one day, this was in the year 2002, in the summer of 2002, there was a performing group. There were three girls who came, dancers, here to Bryn Mawr Care, and they gave a performance. And I went to the performance, and it was downstairs in our activity room, fairly small, medium-sized room, not really suited very much to a performance, but they did a pretty good job. And at the very beginning, at the performance, when I sat down, I was just moved to do what came to me as appropriate to the setting of a dance performance, because I had, as I had mentioned in a previous episode, I had belonged to a performing dance troupe in Boston, and one of the things that we learned there was to smile, and it's not particularly easy when you're beginning to smile, and you have to force it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like being told to smile, but I accepted it, and eventually I learned how to do it. So at this performance here at Bryn Mawr Care, I smiled. I started smiling, and I continued to smile, and I kept my smile on because I felt it was my contribution to that incident. And the three girls who were here saw me. They saw me. There were about 20 people in the audience sitting down there. And there was one girl who was the leader of the group. She was the senior member, probably in her late 20s. There was another girl there who was medium to way down in the hierarchy there of the three of them, and she was probably in her mid-20s or early 20s. And then there was another girl who was the youngest and the least senior member. Probably, maybe she was in her teens, I don't know, lower to 20s, teens, something like that. And she really picked up on my performance, and she took it up herself, and she smiled. She was so radiant, And I was so happy, so proud, and so happy to see her take up on what I was doing and see the point. And the point was simply very easy to understand. You smile if you're performing, and you don't look back. You just really project, and that's what she did. And she did the whole performance, and I was really I was tickled pink is one of the ways I've learned to say it. But I mean, it was really a moving experience, and I felt very much a part of it, and I felt a lot of responsibility to her as someone who was picking up on me and something that would affect her the rest of her life, her performing career. And I'm hoping very much that she has been successful since then. This was in 2002. And I hope she has a very good career. I really am hopeful that this insight that she had at that performance stays with her and takes her to a very successful career. I hope she has a very successful career. The senior person there also noticed what I was doing, but had a very different reaction. I saw her afterwards, and she said to me, you're smiling the way you did tells me that you really understand. I'm not sure what she said. I don't remember exactly, but she commented on the fact that I had smiled throughout the performance, and that she felt that this was a statement of some significance about who I was. But she didn't catch the spirit of it the way that this younger girl did. And I had a secondary event of thought about this, and which was that when you are able to smile like that in public, there are people who will pick up on it. And some people will pick on it particularly strongly and go with it. And you can have a tremendous effect on the world, on society, on people, on the public, when you carry around the understanding that this potential is within you, and you can do it really at any point. It's a commitment. Once you start doing it, you don't know when to stop because it keeps going, and you don't know. So what happened then afterwards was that same day I had an errand to run downtown, so I got on the train. And when I got onto the train, I thought, here I am in public. I have time on my hands. The train's going to take take maybe half an hour to get where I want to go. So I'm going to start smiling, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. So I started smiling, and I put, you look around as you're smiling, and it's not a natural smile. It's a very artificial. It's intentionally artificial because you need it. It's a tool. It's a performance tool. And it's a very, well, we'll see as the story goes on. So I sat there smiling and looking at everyone, looking around, just casually looking around, but being very intense. And everyone on the train, on the car, except for one person, ignored me. Everyone ignored me except for one person. That one person, and I know other people saw me. They looked at me, saw me smile, and then just looked away. They were either embarrassed or unaffected by it. But this one person, there was a young black gentleman sitting about halfway across the car on the other side, and when he saw me and noticed what I was doing, apparently he knew what I was. Apparently he was familiar with this. What he thought of it, I don't know. And there's probably different levels of understanding of it, but he picked up on it and he began to talk in a loud speaking voice about the general situation of someone making it in society and being a potent force, possibly for some people's undoing, because there are certain things that you carry throughout life that you accumulate relationships, and some people, if someone breaks through in this sense, they're going to have an effect, and there are going to be repercussions. And this black gentleman, was speaking to that aspect of it, and he kept up. He just repeated over and over this fact that somebody had made it. And there's beware people, because there's going to be shit hit the fan, so to speak. So he kept talking about this, and I kept smiling. He kept talking. I kept smiling, and people kept ignoring us. So this happened on the train, and I got off. We came to my stop. I got off the train. He continued to talk as I left. He probably stopped talking after that, but I left the train. And when I got off the train, I stopped my performance. I stopped smiling. Went and did my errand, got back, came back to primary care. Then the next day, the very next day, I had another errand to perform. But this time I got on a bus, and I smiled on the bus. This time nobody noticed. Got off the bus, did my errand. Didn't smile during my errand. I had to interact with people. I had to discuss things. I couldn't continue to perform. But when I waited for the bus to get back on the bus to go back home, this was at the corner, near the corner of Diversey and Clark, and Broadway goes into there. Clark and Broadway merge there and become Clark. And Diversey goes through there. I was standing outside the screens store there. I had been doing some work in screens. And I began to smile again. So I was standing there waiting for the bus, smiling. As I had been smiling for maybe about half a minute or so, when all of a sudden, from out to the side, I noticed there was something coming down the road. What this was a parade of bicycles. Unusual bicycles, weird, strange bicycles that had obviously been custom made by these people for performance sake. They were coming down the street. There were hundreds and hundreds of bicycles coming down the street. There were no cars where these guys were. They were just, evidently they had a parade permit or something. So they were coming down the street, all these unusual bicycles, and they started going by, all these bicycles. I was really having fun. I was, smiling the whole time, and they were coming by. It was a great festive atmosphere. It was a real wonderful performance by them, and I was doing my own thing by the side of the road. And so more and more cycles went by. Then there was a shout. One of the bicyclists, as he was going by me, shouted out, "I found the king." So I heard him say that, and I thought to myself, here's another guy who knows what I'm doing. But this time it was an additional recognition. The earlier one, the previous day on the train, had not labeled it with any word. He just said described the situation, the case. He described the situation as he saw it with words. It was a description. But in this case, he used this gentleman used the word king. And it was a much simpler statement, and of course he was on his way. It wasn't a long tirade as the other guy that I heard. It was simply a statement, and that was all he said. And then the parade and him with it went on by. And I continued to stand there watching the parade and smiling. And then all the bikes went by; they were gone. And I got on the bus when it came, and I went back home, no longer smiling. And this was the event when someone in the world saw me doing something that stood out in a way that he recognized as monarchic behavior. The responsibility to the public and the will to present oneself for service. And that, I feel, is the nature of what monarchy is, what I as king do, because of the way that my life has gone. It has brought me to a certain amount of sense of my potential and what I can do for people, and the way that I can influence events. And this particular incident was the grenade going off when the king and pin separated. The pin came out, and the king was left, and that's how I became king. And because bicycles were involved, my legend that I had left in Santee, California, that I referred to in the Back to Chicago episode that I described, uh, led into it, and my kingdom, my being king, has a lot to do with bicycles. I'm not sure exactly what specifically the limits are on my kingdom. It's a growing experience. It's beginning. I'm not descended from kings. Presumably, if it is true, if this in some sense is a kingdom, that when I get married and have children, there will be a line of descent, of passing on this kingdom, because I think the society will be anxious to have the input of me continue when I'm gone, because I think there's a certain amount of reliance that society learns from a person, and they don't want it to end. And I think this is how all kingdoms begin in all countries. This is the way that they originate. It's in the United States, where we have a democracy, a kingdom has to add. It cannot subtract. You cannot lose the great benefits of democracy. You have to add to it. You have to provide possibilities that would not exist without a kingdom, and you have to have it's an additive effect, not a subtractive. And the intent of this series of talks is to introduce myself and my story, and provide a little bit of understanding of how it came about that I should even entertain such a notion of being a king. And hopefully those of my family who need to know the story in great length will have it now, because I have this document that I'm making. And I have hopes that they shall enjoy the fruits of what I have done, just like any parent. It's very normal in some ways, very not so normal in some ways, and this is the tradition that I wish to pass on to my progeny. So with that, I close my talks. Thank you.